Hi everybody, welcome to the Signal Box today. Thank you for joining me for another video. This is just to show you the last loco that I received recently. It came in the post yesterday whilst I was out. So I'm going to show you today what came in the mail. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and we'll crack on with today's video. So, in just over 9 days time, I'll be reaching the big 5-0. So I thought this next loco is quite appropriate. So if you go and grab yourself a beverage of your choice, I'll see you back in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So I'll bring in the reveal as to what came in the post recently. It's a Lima model. Again, I cannot fault these models. In general, they are sort of half decent models. They are an acceptable standard for anyone's model railway, an acceptable standard for anyone's railway. I do believe they do N-gauge, or did N-gauge at the time, I'm not sure, but mainly HO and 00 scale. Their models were, and still are to this day, quite acceptable for a sort of an entry-level model, and they're without the whistles and bells on, with all the separately fitted parts, so there's no danger of breaking these things. However, there's a bit of a story to this one, and I'll show you when I get it out the box. So in 9 days time I'm going to be 50, so what kind of loco did I get? I'll show you. Okay, so when one is 50, what do you get? A class 50 loco. This is actually my first ever class 50 00 scale diesel locomotive that I've ever owned before in my entire life. This is the first for me. I've never actually owned one of these. I've always seen these about over the years, and I thought, shall I get one, shall I not? I've often had the cash available to get one, but I just haven't got round to getting one. So I thought, you know what, it's quite a nice looking thing in real life, and I do have quite a soft spot for these things. These are affectionately known in the railway enthusiast circles as Hoovers, because of the, I think it's the turbo generators in these. When it fires up, it sounds like a vacuum cleaner. It's got quite a unique sound to it, the old class 50s. These could be found everywhere in the UK, on most of the regions. I know the western region had maybe, I think, one, but certainly on the southern region, out of Waterloo to Woking, there was class 50s. I don't think the eastern region had these. We had 37s more than anything else, and 47s, but on the Stratford side of things. But I know certainly the services from Waterloo to Exeter back in the days when it was diesel hauled, you had these things. But anyway, onto the model. So it's quite a nice model. Obviously Lima, you really can't go wrong with their models. They are as you see them. You know, what you see is what you get. They're not overly detailed. There's a lot of detail on this, but it isn't the ones where you pick it up and think, oh no, I've broken something off because I picked it up. One of those things. Well, models are getting more and more like that these days, where you've got to handle them with care. This thing, you can handle it with reasonable care and obviously with sensibility. But if young children have got one of these and they're sensible, I mean, they're quite okay. The seller, the previous owner, I assume, when I got this, I think it cost me with postage around about £28 with the box, which was a steal, I thought. And then I realised why it was a steal. I'll come on to that in a minute. So this is a class 50, and the running number is 50, obviously for the class. Then 043, Loco 43, Eagle, which is nice. There's a couple of more out of these, a couple of class 50s out there. Actually, quite a few, should I say couple? Correction, there's quite a few of these out there that Lima released. I possibly may get another one or two down the line. But this is quite a sad story with this one. Again, especially it was my birthday, or it is going to be my birthday in 9 days' time. I thought, okay, class 50 is quite of a in-joke of what to get for your birthday, class 50, when you're 50. So, the loco itself, as you can see, the paint job on this thing is pretty decent. Reasonably crisp, again. Nothing really you would expect anything less from Lima for a model of its age. It's a nice amount of detail on the thing, on the bogies. those vents there. The numbering and the Loco nameplate is very crisply applied. Underneath here on the chassis side of things, there's some nice detail with the pumps and the brake equipment and all the different various bits of pieces underneath there. It's quite a tidy model. It's actually quite nice. The large blue British Railways logo there. And again, it's quite a nice thing. If we look on top of the roof, there's quite a nice amount of detail on the roof there, which is quite eye-catching. Nothing to snap off there, but again, reasonably nice. I didn't actually have to clean that roof up, believe it or not. There was nothing untoward on there. The only thing that I did last night is I painted those exhaust ports black, because they didn't look right, all painted grey the same as the roof, because obviously they serve as a function. There's diesel fumes blowing out of there, and so it needs to be a nice dirty black to simulate the exhaust dirt coming out of there. So I thought that makes it look a little bit better. But having said that, this diesel is a nice thing, but it turned into a little bit of a sad story. I'll tell you in a moment what happened or what I found on the opposite side. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But as an overall summary, guys, one of the things when I unboxed this, because it came in obviously in the post, all reasonably packaged up well. It came in a very long cardboard box, which was quite thick in material thickness, and it was covered in brown postage paper. When I opened it up, it was bubble wrapped very well, with loads and loads of that stuff around the actual box. And then obviously the Loco was inside. But the thing is, when I took it out of the box, or when I started to take the bubble wrap off and actually came to the actual cardboard Lima box, what I found was, my goodness, the entire lower half of this Loco body, below the numbers there, so from about sort of where my finger is, excuse for pointing, but from about here onwards below that way, the whole thing was drenched in oil. There was enough oil on this Loco to fry a pan of chips. It was disgusting, the amount of oil that had way too much been overly applied. It was absolutely horrendous. It was an absolute nightmare. I thought, my goodness, whoever's attempted to oil this has obviously just not even pinpointed the oil. They've just chucked oil at it, literally. It was vile. So that was a bad sign. I thought, oh my goodness. Because obviously in the picture, on the eBay seller's profile for the selling and for the advertisement itself, it didn't have chip fat oil over it. However, when I took it out of the box, it was swimming in the stuff, and it was blinking horrible, and it was not a good thing. So the first thing I thought, okay, the first thing we have to do is very carefully unclip the body from the chassis and run a sink full of warm soapy detergent water, and with a toothbrush soak it in there and gently scrub it, and it will come up like new. And that's exactly what I did. I took the body shell off, I cleaned it, and then I had to pay attention to the bogies. Both the believe it or not, the pickup bogie was all right. It was the motor bogie that was swimming in oil. Literally, it was actually saturated in bloody oil. Like I said, you could have done a full fry up in it. It was just atrocious. Why some people do that, I don't know. There is no need to over oil a Loco. No need to do that at all. I mean, that Class 33 that I got, the Lima Class 33 I got the other day, not the nice one, but the Lima one, that was dry as a bone. And I actually love it when they come to me in that condition, because then I can start from scratch in terms of cleaning, servicing, and do it properly. But this thing, sadly, was someone had put it in a bloody frying pan, I swear. Anyway, that was one horror story. So I managed to clean up the motor bogie, clean off all the excess oil from it, get it to a decent condition, took the commutator out. The commutator actually wasn't too bad. The brushes and springs were brand new, no use at all on them, in good condition. Loads of carbon on the brushes, so they were new from what I see. They hardly been ever used, so that was good. Springs were okay. The commutator just needed a wipe over and a little bit of sandpapering, but other than that, when I put it all back together and I tested it and ran it without lubrication, very, very powerful, very strong, a really good little motor in that. So I thought, great, okay, that's even without lubrication. So I added a tiny bit of Hobby Lube and just a tiny bit of pinprick oil, just on the pinpoints of where you should oil on a motor, the bearings, axles, that sort of thing. And it runs very sweetly in terms of motor-wise. However, there was sad story number 2 awaiting me on the other side of the model, which the seller did not put in there. And as mentioned in my previous sentiments, this loco was packaged, in terms of packaging, I thought it was packaged quite well. Like I said, it had a very thick cardboard box it was put in. Then the actual Lima box was bubble wrapped very well. So it was delivered by a company called Every, which previously were Hermes in the UK. If you've ever read about Every online and the Google reviews, they are an absolute horrendous company. I wouldn't even use them, for a food delivery, let alone anything else. They are absolutely abysmal. I'm not sure what happened, whether it got thrown around, but even if it got thrown around in the delivery van, what I saw on the following side was a little bit discouraging. I'll show you. We spin it round. Right, we'll start from this end. So we'll go this end first. Right. If you're not sure if you can pick it up on the camera, just if you look at the bottom of the loco, we're looking at the cab, obviously this is the cab end. If you look at the front of the loco, the very bottom, which is, excuse my finger, but this area here, if you look upwards, there's a little socket with a flap that's supposed to open up in real life. Just above that, there's a very, very fine crack, which is there. Can you see that? A little fine crack. That was much worse last night because I had to glue it. There was a split. So that was split number 1 that I managed to glue back in place. And it's still a little bit irritating, but at a glance from sort of a normalish level, you can't notice it too much. Okay, so that's crack number 1. This is the most horrific one. That really is a bit of a horror story, and I see how that's happened. When I gently went to remove the loco, and how you remove the body shell from any Lima loco, what some people do, if they're not savvy, they will take a screwdriver and they will stick it under the body, normally about here or there, or normally up the front, and they'll just really wrench it, and they'll try and prise it off with force. Never do that, because that's exactly what's happened there and on the other end. Someone's obviously tried to have this body shell off many times, and what they've done is they've forced it and caused a split from the front of the cab there, halfway up to the door. Now, I spent last night, I tried putting some filler on that and tried to obviously get rid of that. I tried acrylic paint on it. No, it wouldn't, so I washed it all off. I did try and glue it, but it's unfortunately with a split like that, there isn't much I can do really, because funny enough, the whole body shell itself, believe it or not, the factory colour is this yellow. This is roughly the colour I think it is, because I'm pretty sure if I scratch off this blue paint, eventually you'll come to that yellow kind of colour. Because when the plastic was split and I went to glue it, I had to look at the material sort of in the middle of it to see down into the material what it was made of, if it was a different colour to the paint job. No, it was yellow. So I could take some sandpaper and I could see if I could gently file that out and get rid of it. But the thing is, you're going to end up scratching the side of the loco and making things 10 times worse. So I'm not really sure what to do with that. The only thing I can do, the only thing I can really suggest, or thing that I'm coming up with, because to go down the route of getting this stuff called Milliput, which is, I'm not sure if you've heard of it out there in the modelling world. It's really, really good. It's great for little filling jobs. Milliput. It's a bit like normal DIY polyfiller, but it's a special grade for models. If I did that, it's okay. I'll put it on there, smooth it out, wait till it goes off, gently file it and sand it. Okay, even if I got a flat profile and we got rid of the crack, then I've got to get an exact paint match for that yellow finish there. And because it's a sprayed or a chemically produced yellow, not a paint one, I'm pretty sure it's going to look naff, because you paint one patch and it will stand out like a sore thumb, even worse, because the rest of the loco isn't painted. It's you've just repainted something and it will look odd, so that you'd have to paint the entire cab and then do the other end. So for the time and money what that would cost to do, I'm not really wanting to do that. So I think, to be quite honest, what I'm going to do at some point, I've seen them on eBay. You can buy just the body shells, a Lima Class 50 043 body shell. You can get them about there. I've seen them about. I think they're about £37, something like that. The thing is, it's all right, but it's going to cost me more than I paid for the original loco. I know that. That's one choice. I don't want to get rid of the whole loco full stop, because the chassis, once it's been cleaned and lubricated and tested, it runs really, really well. It's an excellent chassis. It's a very, very good running chassis with the motor and pickup bogie and everything on there. It's a decent Class 50 chassis. Mechanically wise, it's very good now. So all I really want to do is just probably exchange the body shell on this. It's a shame, because if it had just been something like that, that you could barely notice, I would have got away with it. But there was a couple of things on here that I didn't like too much. For example, I noticed as well on this end where there was a crack there, I also noticed that underneath, part of the buffer shank had dropped off or missing, as you can see there. That's gone. All right, it's underneath. You can't see it from the top too much. And again, there's two ways to do that. Get some filler, as mentioned, or I could just get some very thin black insulating tape and put around that, but I wouldn't, it look nasty. So again, it's a little bit of a disappointment. It happens once in a while, only once in a while, where I buy something off eBay, and I've told stories before about this, and you probably say, well, you should learn your lesson. The thing is, it's a bit of a hit and miss. Maybe it's my fault, or maybe I should have asked the seller to send me some more pictures, but from the angles of photographs that he'd done of this model, from a selling point of view, there was nothing on. I didn't notice, obviously, close up things. I did obviously look at the pictures on my phone and then pinched and zoomed them right in to see if I could see anything, and they didn't show anything. But obviously it wouldn't have done, sometimes with a crack that's not even recognisable until you get it up close in your hands and think, my goodness. So a little bit of a sad story about that. So I'm just debating what to do, but I think I'm going to run it, but at some point I will get a new body shell for this. It's just sadly something I'm probably going to have to do. It is a shame, because other than that, it's quite a decent looking loco. You know, it's quite nice. But that's a sad thing that spoils it. And like I said, I'm not going to attempt to sand this off, because what will happen is it'll look all scratchified, and also it'll reveal the actual mould, factory plastic underneath probably, and it just won't look very nice. And if you do a little patch there, then you've got to do the entire cab all round to match. From the front, doesn't notice. If you look at that shot there, you can't really notice. You only can see is a little bit of lower damage there where it starts. You might say, well, why don't you weather it? so you can cover up that little scratch. I could, but it won't. That won't work because it will show through the weathering. All the weathering process does, whether you're doing dry weathering or you're doing airbrush weathering, it just picks up relief detail pretty much on a model. It highlights those relief details. So obviously that split, it will still show up. But there's not much I can do, unfortunately, with that, I don't think. Like I said, I could put some Milliput over that, file it, and then just make it flush. And then I'll have to get some yellow paint and repaint the entire cab. Where then, once you've done the cab, you've got to do the other end. And then once you've done that, then you've got to do the body. And then you've got to do the roof. And it's like, you know what? It's so much fighting around. I don't really want to take on that kind of project. So I think realistically, the quick fix would be to get a replacement body shell. Find a decent replacement body shell. Just get that. I mean, I could get another exact loco. I've seen them on eBay for a little bit more in terms of money. I could get another replacement. But then again, that would leave me with a motor chassis, which I don't really want. I just really want to replace this. So I think that's what I'll do. Anyway, your thoughts out there and your comments are always appreciated. And that is that really. So nothing really more to say about that. If I just turn it over onto its side like that. These wheels were a little bit grubby, so I've cleaned them up a little bit as best I could. It does run. It's a shame because everything underneath there is in good condition. There's nothing really wrong with that. The traction tyres on there are in good condition as well. I've cleaned the motor bogie. That's all been cleaned and serviced. You wouldn't believe how much oil physically was on this thing. It was absolutely covered and caked in oil. All that bogie truck, wheels, all this under detail here. The whole thing, like I said, you could have fried a pan of chips in it. It was disgusting. So I'm not very pleased with the seller, because at the end of the day, if there's a defect in the model, mention the damn thing and sell it at an according price. So we've got a split there, a tiny split above that bit of detail there, a broken buffer shank, that's 3 things, and then the thing was covered in chip fat. So what the bloody hell, hey? Not a good start, but anyway, a little project. I mean, I know that now it's cleaned up, it's been serviced and done properly, it's been given the West Anglia treatment. She does run quite nicely. I haven't tested it on the layout yet, but I know from powering it up, it does take current from all of those pickup bogie wheels nicely, and it sounds and runs so much better. That's good. So, but the body shell thing, I know it looks a lot worse than it is, but believe you and me, it's far easier to send away for another replacement body shell. And then what I normally do is, as soon as I get it in the post, once it's okay and intact and better than this one, I will stick it in a warm bath of soapy water and a toothbrush, give it a little clean up, rinse it under cold water, dry it off, and then we'll fit it to the chassis of this one, and hopefully we'll have a better outcome. But it's really sad because it is a nice looking model, as you can see. It's a real shame. But there we go. These things do happen. I have had quite a few horror stories from eBay, and it does put you off sometimes. But you know what? It's kind of like, what can you do? I mean, there's no good going on to eBay and start slating off the seller. It's not really going to change anything really, because but it still is a little bit sharp practice. I mean, if I was going to sell this on eBay myself, I'd advertise it with the defects. I'd say 2 cracks on the cab side body, a broken buffer shank, but runs very well, and it boxes in reasonable condition, and I'd sell it at a sensible price, which I could do, I may not do, I don't know, but I just like the idea of exchanging the body shell, because I work really hard on the chassis in getting everything cleaned and running nicely. So I don't really want to part with that. I just want to get rid of this thing on top, which is a little bit of a horror story. Anyway, that's that. A very sad end, but it also there's hope. You know, you should always have hope in life. So I always believe that something good will come out of this. We'll get another body shell, and we'll make things a bit better. But from the front profile there, it's quite a nice thing, isn't it? It's not too bad. Again, quite an acceptable model for a Class 50. They've got the black window surround thickness round about right. When I looked at these pictures on eBay, again, before I go, I'll say that crack wasn't there because there wasn't a close-up shot like that. It was just sort of like that, and it was the seller had rather cheekily placed the model like that. So you look at it from that shot there on my camera and your camera at home, even if I go in like that, or go in like that, or go at that angle, you can't see anything. You can't see those cracks. Why? Because he turned it round. Well, that's what I'm surmising. I can't accuse that person directly, but that's my thoughts anyway. Anyway, that is it. So I'll see you soon in the next video. We'll get some locos running. I've yet to lubricate and fit up the brass etch plates to the Super Duper Class 33 from Helgen, and we'll get the Lima 33 going, and I might even get this running around the layout as well in the next video while I'm waiting to get the next body shell for it. In the meantime, I'll see you soon in the next one. Take care, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and see you soon. Take care. Bye bye now.